Good morning everyone and welcome to this video. My name's Helen, I'm from the outreach team, and joined with me today is Dr Hannah Ewence. She is our senior lecturer in history, and we're going to talk to you today about digital skills and our Digital Skills Week. Good morning, Hannah.
Good morning, Helen.
I'm going to let you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and your role, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about digital skills, if that's okay.
Yes, that's fine. So I'm Hannah. I'm a historian. I teach modern history, particularly the history of immigrants coming to Britain and the way in which Britain and British society and government responded to those immigrants in the 19th and the 20th century. Part of my role as well is also as what's called the Senior University Teaching Fellow, and so within that role I'm responsible for trying to nurture really good learning and teaching practice amongst all of my colleagues in my faculty, the Faculty of Arts and Humanities, and try to support students in learning and teaching as well.
Brilliant, fantastic, sounds really fascinating, your research. I know today that we're filming on the 23rd of March, which is the day of reflection. It marks a year that we've been in lockdown, and it's a time for us to look back over the last 365 days and how we've changed and shaped the way that we practice personally and professionally. I was wondering if you could tell me why you think that it's important for us to have digital skills. We've got Digital Skills Week next week as part of the university. So what is it that's led you to think that this is an important part of our curriculum?
Well, I think, as you say, Helen, given where we are this day of reflection, looking back, when I think about how far I've come, how far the University of Chester has come, and all of my colleagues in the past year alone, in terms of understanding what digital skills can actually do, how they can make the delivery of our programmes at university possible. And of course, in all areas of education, I think without digital skills, digital technologies, we would have been completely lost. And I think that sense of loss of learning as well would have just been exacerbated tenfold without having all of that at our disposal. So I think we are incredibly fortunate, at least, that the technology has been there to support all of that. But also, I think for me, it's really shown how learning and teaching at university can really benefit from using digital technologies, and how students can benefit, how it improves their access to learning, their comprehension of so much of what we teach as well, that digital skills and their understanding of them has been really crucial for helping them to become better learners. So I think this year alone has really demonstrated that to me.
Absolutely, it really has done that. I know that a year ago, when we were all sent home from work and not really knowing when or how we would come back, I don't think any of us envisaged that a year on we would have adapted in such a way and so quickly. And I think although it has been a year of some sadness and you know, sometimes things have gone wrong, I think I'm really proud of everything that we've done as an institution, because I think when I think back to a year ago and I didn't really know how Microsoft Teams worked, and now I use it every day, it's been a steep learning curve, and I think that we should be really proud of our students as well, but to how they've adapted. So Digital Skills Week, we're about to start next week the Digital Skills Week, our second one of this academic year. Can you tell us a little bit about what the week's for and how it'll work?
Yeah, it's a week that is devoted entirely to trying to give all of our students the opportunity to really focus on developing digital skills, understanding what they are, and how they can use them both during their degree, but also as they move out into the world of work. My involvement is to organise lots of learning resources, materials, activities, interesting content that I put onto our online learning platform. And all of them have some sort of arts and humanities focus to them. make them available for students across the faculty, but also work with some of our central services, so our library teams, our careers and employability teams, the learning technology unit. So these are other professional services. We work together as well, so that students get a really full array of all kinds of digital content. So hopefully, after engaging with that content, they come out much better equipped for the world that we're already in, but that particularly after this pandemic, we're going to be moving ever more into a world that's driven by digital technologies, and therefore we need to be producing digitally competent graduates.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. So it's definitely a team effort then, isn't it? Which is great, and it's across the whole university, which is brilliant. Many people might associate digital skills with those subjects like computer science, or maybe more technical subjects like cybersecurity. Why do you think they're important for arts and humanities graduates, for example?
I think they help to make those kind of subjects remain current, but also to allow those disciplines as well to reach much wider audiences. And digital humanities, which is the wing, if you like, that my particular subject area has been able to develop and to draw upon, is all about trying to utilize all of the latest technologies to try to bring new audiences to our subject, to try to bring new technologies to help open up our subject or deepen understanding of whatever it is. And so it's really, really important that a subject like history, for example, is not just something that's left to something that's written in books, that's only available in museums or in libraries, in very closed spaces, but that we're utilising digital resources to try to bring it out into the world. Some really great examples that I've seen of the way that humanities are using these digital tools, things like virtual galleries that you can walk around, all at home, completely online, or online exhibitions where you can participate. You can virtually pick up an object. You can see it from 365 degrees. You can learn about it. You can link through to a whole range of additional resources that give you the full range of it. Also, the way that a historian might research is hugely advanced by the digital technologies that mean the kind of data, for example, that's just been collected in the census that we all did this weekend, that can all now be made available online. It's easily searchable. It means that research, even in the time that I've been working as a historian, has changed dramatically because of the digital technologies that make it all accessible and available.
It's been a real opportunity, hasn't it, to bring things to life, like you say, being able to visit galleries and museums and look at things up close where we may not have even been able to do that if we'd been in the museum or gallery ourselves. We've shared some of those links on our website as well. As you know, it's really exciting to be able to go and travel the world really and visit all of these landmarks and galleries and museums and artifacts that we would never have been able to do. So we've got some of those on our website as well. So in a history context then, what are the digital skills that you're hoping students will gather and you think are important?
We use them right the way through our history programmes here at Chester. They're used in the classroom on a daily basis, so the kind of technologies that we have students engage with, and that's not just what we've been doing since we've been largely online this past year, but in the classroom we would be using resources that help students to collaborate, to do better teamwork. There's all sorts of different platforms that make that much more possible. Different ways of allowing students to draw in research that they might have done online and to post them onto some sort of platform that allows students perhaps with different learning needs to be able to access this content resources which are able to read out text to students, perhaps with hearing impairments, and all kinds of different things like that. So it means that within our programs at Chester, and not just within history, that learning technologies like that are making programs much more accessible. But we try and also link it through to the assessment that we're doing as well. So it's not just about using it as a support for learning. It's really about trying to embed those skills in our students so that they feel competent using them as well. One of our assessments at the moment is to have students compile a video essay, and that is asking them to draw upon Holocaust testimony that they can access from a US heritage organisation, so they can access that online. And then we are teaching them to use a video editing platform that allows them to create their own content, their own short film, cutting and editing extracts from this testimony, overlaying it with music, inserting other images, and ultimately coming out at the end of that with a complete product that is a way, that offers a way of them reinterpreting some raw primary material and presenting it and then disseminating it out to a new audience. So that means they come out of that particular module being able to do something which is translatable into future employment. So I think that's really critical, being able to make sure that we're truly upskilling our students and these future graduates with the skills that they will need when they go out into the world of work.
That sounds really exciting, far away from the history I remember at school. I suppose it makes them better historians as well, because it's listening to people's testimony, bringing the history to life, but also, as you say, having an opportunity to develop those translatable skills that you can use in lots of different contexts. It sounds fantastic. It's really exciting.
Yeah.
So there's been wonderful opportunities, as we've talked about, with regards to digital skills and being able to utilise that, thinking outside the box. We've been able to wipe the slate clean and start from scratch, which I think, although daunting at first, has been really, really exciting process. We have operated within Chester with the Chester Blend, so we're trying to blend face-to-face with virtual learning. What does online learning look like in your department? We've talked a little bit about the video essay, but thinking about the actual process of teaching, how does that work for students?
Well, this year we have been largely online, certainly in the history programme, because it's a programme that was regarded by government as one that could be kept online rather than returned after the Christmas break. We have been virtual for most of the year, but I think it's worked surprisingly well. What it has meant is that we have been encouraged to generate much more of what's called asynchronous learning. So this is content, this is learning resources and activities that students are directed to each week, that they would do in their own time. And that would then be paired with a live session on Teams where we would all come together as a class and we would review the learning that they have done in their own time and online in advance. And all of that would feed into the live session. The live session I tended to run in a very informal sense. So certainly I think when you're working through a platform like Teams, it's not really the space, the appropriate place to be delivering a lecture. It's much better suited to what we're doing now, where we're having a conversation, a discussion. But I would be using additional digital tools to help support that. So I might be sharing my screen to show students some online resources that I've found to walk them through an online exhibition or an archive, digital archive. Or I might be showing them some PowerPoint slides or a YouTube clip or something like that. I then might be directing them to some questions that I might want them to work through, and then I would be setting up breakout channels on Teams where they might go away and do some group work with a smaller number of their classmates, and then come back together into a whole group discussion. That would be a typical week, and I think it's all really organised, not really just to straightforwardly replicate what we might have done in the classroom, but to try to help them to develop the skills that is needed for the virtual environment. So all of them now are competent at communicating online in a variety of different ways. So whether that's speaking verbally, using the chat function, whether that's using all the different emojis that we can use online, whether that's using a support platform like Padlet, where they can go and they can post anonymously, they can like each other's comments. We try to also feed that into assessment. So my final year students are just at the moment doing online presentations, 15-minute presentations, which have been fantastic so far. They've been putting together PowerPoint slides, sharing their screens, and then delivering directly to the screen. And it's just so impressive to see that they can do that. And actually they do it in such a competent manner. It gives me real confidence that when they go out into the world of work, perhaps when they interview online, because that might now be the practice, at least in the short term, but possibly also longer term, that I know they're going to be confident communicators. They know how to do that. They know how to multitask, talking whilst managing their other computer tools at the same time. And they can really sell themselves in a professional way and talk very articulately. And I think that's a real, that really has been a benefit of us all having to work in this remote way.
I think it sounds like they've adapted really well, and I suppose because we were all in this together, trying to navigate it together, that's allowed us all to grow in this way. It sounds to me like because you haven't tried to replicate what you would have in a classroom, because we recognise that this is completely different. It sounds like to me that you haven't lost the sort of camaraderie that is definitely there when we're face to face. Is that something that you consciously try to replicate or try to produce?
Yeah, I think myself and my colleagues were all really conscious and probably very anxious last August, September, as we were beginning the new teaching term, about not wanting to lose a sense of community that we would normally establish right from week one when we're all in the classroom together. So that sense of being in it together, of building those relationships with one another, and also with me as the lecturer, that sense of belonging that you feel when you come onto campus and you feel that you are amongst your fellow university students, but you're also part of a department. Ordinarily, students could pop up into one of our buildings on campus. They can pop up and knock on my office, or they can come into the main hub area for our department and meet any of us. So it does mean that we had to think quite carefully, how can we try to replicate that sense of community, even though we're all going to be so remote from one another. So yes, there has been a real effort at trying to put strategies in place. Teams has worked quite nicely for that because it allows for these multiple forms of communication, and it also allows, I think, for slightly more informal communication. And I asked all of my students right from week one, how would you prefer me to communicate with you? Shall I just keep with email like we might normally do, or should we use a chat function on Teams that's more immediate, it's more informal, it's perhaps a bit more like using social media? And they wanted to go with that, and that's been really quite nice. I also set up a social space on each of the Teams sites for each of my modules, which was a place not so much for me, but for the students to go and to meet one another virtually. They could post content about anything really, but even if it was only very loosely related to the module. So, you know, did you see that new TV program last night that was a little bit about this historical period, or that had this interesting character in? It was a bit like we were chatting about last week. And that's been quite nice as well, because that's given them a safe space where they can come, where they can feel part of things. There's been some other fantastic initiatives in my faculty. In English, they started running weekly watch-alongs. So all through the autumn term, they were doing bake-off, and that was a space for students and staff, anybody that wanted to come to watch bake-off in real time together, and then to chat on Teams as well. So that's created a really great dynamic. And then they've been doing Drag Race, I think, through the spring, and then other films like feature-length films as well. And as part of Digital Skills Week, we're going to have a watch along on one of the evenings to just, again, try to really keep that sense of a community going, to keep students feeling included and involved.
It sounds brilliant and really exciting. Before we finish then, can you tell me what your favourite and your least favourite things about moving online have been?
Well, I think favourite things is probably discovering the whole world of additional digital resources out there that have really helped me enhance the teaching that I'm doing. So things that I probably wouldn't have been utilising if we'd just remained in the classroom, if I hadn't been jolted out of the way that I got used to doing it all. But actually having to discover them has really helped me think much more critically and carefully about the way I'm teaching, the content that I'm using, and about the students' experience of it all. So I think finding different ways to teach better that really serve the students and hopefully give them a better experience, but also help to upskill them as well, because they're using these technologies alongside me. That's been really good. I think that's been really positive, and lots of that I want to retain. Even when we're back in the classroom, I would still look to retain some of those tools. But I think the worst thing, I think just the sense of the lack of social interactions, you know, just those micro interactions, which I just really enjoy ordinarily with students in the classroom. You know, the little chats that you'll have before the class starts, or maybe afterwards, or perhaps bumping into each other as you're picking up your morning coffee, and, you know, having a chat with the students and being able to feel that you're much more in touch with them. You're able to pick up any problems they're having a bit earlier. You're able to read body language, and, you know, you feel that you can be more responsive to their needs, but also really embed those relationships in a much more organic way, let's say. So I miss that, and I think it will be nice when we can get back into the classroom and generate that whole environment again, alongside perhaps retaining some of this these digital environments too.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a lot that we can use ordinarily, and like you say, the jolt that we all needed, I think, to re-look at how we operate and how we deliver our activities has, although a little bit frightening at the start, has actually, like you say, enhanced everything that we do. And if we can then combine that with having those sort of micro interactions and little chats and bumping into people, then I think we're going to have the best of both worlds. So Digital Skills Week starts next week for us in the University of Chester. So it starts on the 29th of March and runs that whole week. And I'm hoping to develop my own digital skills through that as well. I wondered if you were to describe Digital Skills Week and why it was so important, if you were to describe it in 3 sentences or three things, what would you say are the most important things about it?
Well, I think firstly that it's not just about skills, it's also about digital citizenship. It's about trying to make all of our students digitally responsible and digitally safe in the world that they're working in. So it's about getting them to think through all of those much wider issues as well as upskilling. It's about employability as well. when we look at the data, the statistics that come out about the number of jobs that will be driven by the digital economy, it's something like 133 million new jobs are going to be generated globally by 2022. So it's critical that our students, our graduates, are prepared for that. And I think thirdly, it is actually about that sense of community. Weirdly enough, I work really hard on the site that I'm developing for it to have not just the skills and citizenship content, but to have digital culture as well. So I've got lots of different resources that are trying to direct students to all kinds of wonderful examples of where culture has found a new home and a new means of communicating through digital technologies. And I think that is really critical as well, not just for the arts and humanities, but for everybody, because we've all missed culture so much this year. And I think being able to bring that, being able to conjoin that together with digital technologies is a really wonderful thing.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you very much for talking to me this morning. It's been lovely to meet you, Hannah, and to talk a little bit more about digital skills. I hope that we'll be able to chat about the next one, and you can tell us a little bit more about what you're doing then as well. Thanks very much, Hannah.
Bye.